Welcome to the Intrazone Roadmap Pitstop October 2020 edition. This is a bonus monthly show that answers that burning question in your mind. What's rolling out now for SharePoint and related technologies in Microsoft 365? I'm Mark Cashman, Senior Product Manager on the Microsoft 365 marketing team, here to help set the ongoing record straight. This month, I talk with Harsh Agarwal, our Program Manager at Microsoft working in the Teams group. I talked with Harsh about the new file sharing experience in Teams channels and chat, and the broader notion of a consistent file sharing experience across Microsoft 365. And in the spirit of Halloween, don't be surprised if at times throughout this episode we are visited by ghosts of Roadmap past, present, and future. I will, as Jacob Marley would, be your guide to help you from becoming a Roadmap Scrooge. This podcast, a roadmap carol, if you will, is your 30 minutes to stay informed and ahead of the ever-curving, often spirited Microsoft 365 roadmap. I am sure it's to be a Dickens of a time. Here we go! Up first, employee engagement. How is it when you're thinking about that one-to-many across your whole organization, keeping that communication and content alive and easy to share? The first one up is a pretty big announcement that has started to roll out and now become available in October, and that is SharePoint Syntex. This is the first product to come from Project Cortex, which is a broader Microsoft 365 initiative that applies advanced artificial intelligence, AI, to empower people with knowledge and expertise in the apps they use every day. Syntex amplifies human experience, automates content processing, and transforms content into knowledge. Syntex mainstreams machine learning and machine teaching, enabling your experts to capture their knowledge about content in AI models they can build with no code. Your experts train Syntex to understand content like they do, to recognize key information, and to tag content automatically. For example, a contract processing expert can teach the service to extract the contract's value along with the expiration date and key terms and conditions. There's a lot more to learn about Syntex. We'll provide a link also to a click-through demo and the main SharePoint Syntex Resource Center with a ton more information. Next up is the organization chart web part. And, we just have it for short, org chart web part. It's fun to say, org chart web part. Org chart web part. This web part allows page authors to generate an organization chart based off a specific individual. Just type in their name. The page author will also have the option to determine how many levels up from this org chart it goes. And as you navigate, you see who reports to who. So, for example, imagine Ebenezer Scrooge types in Tiny Tim Cratchit. This would then resolve his hierarchy of Bob and Emily Cratchit above. Now, this may be an org chart that is yet to come, but it does give Scrooge great visions into who Tiny Tim is and the org structure he belongs to, and it's just about that easy to put it on any SharePoint page. Next up, and rounding off the last part of our employee engagement section, is new IT controls for settings that you have now access to manage Microsoft lists. This one is based on a lot of Microsoft 365 admin feedback that we've been getting. So we've now added new IT capabilities along with new documentation so you can learn how to do it on how you can better manage Microsoft lists via PowerShell. This means you can do two new things. You can control the creation of personal lists. This is a disable type control, and you can manage the built-in ready-made templates so that only the ones that you wish to be available to your people will appear. This is one of those areas where we want to say thank you for the feedback. In this space, we want to make sure that we give you the right IT control so that you can enable your users in the way that you want to. So please keep it coming. And with that, we'll pause, ending on our employee engagement section to move in the discussion with Harsh to learn more about the new sharing experience in Teams. Okay, so it is now time to learn a little bit more behind the feature. And the feature that we're talking about is to get to know a little bit about the new sharing experience in Microsoft Teams. Harsh Agrawal, who is a program manager at Microsoft working in the Teams group, and he works on a lot of different things, but has recently been the one in charge of making sure we get the new files experience in Teams right. So I want to welcome to the Interzone Harsh. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Mark. Thanks for taking me on board. I'm really excited for today's discussion.
Great, me too. This is a feature that I've been really excited. I, of course, have been using it for a while, and there's a ton of value when I'm working with documents and how I share them and feeling a little bit more in control. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you do on the Microsoft Teams team and maybe a little bit about your group in India in support of the full Microsoft Teams org.
So the whole charter, the team works on the files experiences. So any endpoint that has any file-related activity in Teams is managed by our team in IDC. I specifically look at the file sharing experience and a bunch of other scenarios related to files in Teams.
So your background and really what you're chartered with is making it easy for people to work on documents in the context of how they share with other people. And certainly anything else around the file, to our audience, we've already shared with them over these last years that the real back end to the files experience in Teams is SharePoint.
That's correct.
And, when you think about bringing the SharePoint capabilities forward to give this new file sharing experience, how do you approach that from a planning perspective to do it right? How do you approach that when you think about bringing the new files experience into Teams?
It's with a typical any kind of project that we work on or the feature that we work on. It starts with what is the value that we are going to give to our customers. And then we go through a lot of iterations and based on user feedback and user research that we do, whether we are making it right or not. And when we speak about users, we have like admins and end users as well. So we need to make sure that both are in line. And specifically for this feature, which is about new file sharing experience in Teams, it's been there in O365 and 365 for quite some time. But if you see that each of the surfaces, be it SharePoint, be it Outlook, be it OneDrive, or any other endpoint, has their own values that they provide to the customers. Similarly, Teams provide their own values. So a very interesting thing here is to see basically how users use Teams and how basically the sharing experience can be enhanced in Teams. So it's basically like looking the sharing from a Teams lens, the way Outlook is looking at sharing from the Outlook lens. I think that's the key that we typically start with.
So when you think of what then makes sharing very unique in a chat, what would you say is the one thing that's different than sharing in Outlook or sharing in OneDrive or SharePoint? What's the unique formula for when you share in a chat?
Yeah, I think the crux here is that whenever a user shares a file in a chat, it resides in their OneDrive, which I think is pretty unique. And when user shares a file in chat, now with the new file sharing experience, they can actually see if the recipients have access to the file or not, or they can tweak the permission based on their need, whether they want to give someone a view only access and or maybe edit access, or they want to restrict the permission to a very specific set of users or their recipients. These are the two key things I'll say are critical or are the new features or the key points I'll say for this particular experience, and typically like how people upload files in chat.
To be transparent to our audience, this is a feature that we announced about a year ago, and it's got its complexities, and certainly to do it right, not just to have a new sharing experience, but to get one that really complements both what end users need, one that IT can feel comfortable with. Can we take a pause and talk a little bit about the challenges to get it right and some of the learnings? You had mentioned that you'd worked with customers. Just give us a little insight into some of the challenges that we saw and maybe a little bit of behind the scenes, getting this feature ready to roll out.
Yeah, sure, Mark. I think this is a very interesting question, actually. So a little bit of background. When I joined Microsoft, after a few days, I got this feature to work on. This feature was already been worked by earlier PMs as well. Yeah, so some of the challenges that particularly I came across is that even within Teams, if you see that there are different endpoints like channel, chat, and group chat, you have meeting chat, bunch of things. So how do we make sure that each of the endpoint is we are giving the same experience to users across each of the endpoint? because we don't want to build multiple mental models for user how each of the endpoint work. So that's, I think, was a first key thing. The second challenge, or not a challenge, but interesting thing that we did, we were in the TAP program for quite long actually, because we diligently looked at all the feedbacks that we are getting from our customers, be it TAP tenants or be it the end users, and we worked upon each of the feature. And the third key thing is we really have a high bar for the quality here, because we worked on a lot of small things just to make sure that everything is in perfect shape before we actually roll out to our end users.
So thinking about the TAP program, which just for our clarity to audiences, our technology adoption program, our early adopters, was there something that came from that program that was early feedback that was something that we needed to either rethink or redo before we rolled out to production?
Yeah, in fact, I remember that one of our TAP feedback that we got was, so when someone has copy pasted a file from anywhere, like copied a file link from anywhere in O365, and when they paste in chat, some of the links were not detecting as a file, and it was opening outside the Teams, which is counterintuitive to the whole experience of file sharing, because right now the experience in Teams is that the files will default open in Teams. So in certain cases we were not able to detect, and that's how we made great enhancements there, basically, that how do we make sure that the files, either they are copy pasted or they are uploaded, behave in same way.
Yeah, I can imagine that, from a document perspective, that's the world that I live in. So I understand the type of URL structures that people would paste in. But I could imagine that a lot of people are pasting in URLs that point to a lot of different types of content. And you have to identify what the content is, obviously apply the permissions model. And I could imagine that you not only got feedback, but at the same time, from the feedback, you realize there's a lot more area that we need to make sure of how we handle it. So I totally get that. What is the actual experience when, if you could walk us through one or two use cases of how somebody would use this feature and maybe just verbally tell us a little bit about what happens?
Yeah, so Mark, I'll brief about the key benefits of the new file sharing experience. So with the new file sharing experience, now users can actually manage the permission when they are trying to upload a file or share a file with any kind with their colleagues. And in case we detect that the colleagues with whom the user is trying to share their file, be it in chat or be it in channel, they might not have permission to the file, we inform the user in a way of warning that, hey, some of the recipients may not have the permission to the file. And they have the option to manage the permission then and there before, in fact, they share the file with their colleagues. So I think this is one key feature which is a big enhancement that we see coming in. And the second one is basically we are improving the experience of copy link file action, where now users can just copy one link, which is a SharePoint link, and they can directly manage the permission within Teams for what kind of permission that they want to set for that particular link. I think these are the key interesting things that we are bringing in the new file sharing experience.
I would agree. I know that one of the major issues that you have solved for is when somebody who is the recipient reads the information that was written and then clicks on what looks like an icon, like an attachment, it is then permissioned for them in a way that the sender optimized for. So if somebody sent me something in a chat and they wanted me to view it but not be able to edit it, that's all something they can do before they even hit send. But it also optimizes for the person who then receives it, as they will be able to use that link. It won't be a broken link experience. That's great. I know the experience in SharePoint I know really well. And I know the value that, a number of years ago we brought to Outlook so that people would stop physically attaching documents. But I think the other value is now a lot of people are in Teams and a lot of people are sharing content by default. And when it comes to sharing content with whomever, whether it's your team member that you work with all the time or individuals that you're just sharing something because they asked a question and maybe providing the content is your way of answering, it does optimize for it being still a single source of truth where the file is stored, but really giving a lot of options for how you share. And I think you've implemented the feature really well, especially that it sounds like you've listened through the TAP program and obviously learned what is unique to Teams and how to make that a unique Teams experience.
Yep. I think one of the key things here is that how do we make sure that people collaborate on files as much as possible in Teams? or specifically in Teams when we talk about Teams. So I think that's the genesis of whole the new file sharing experience. Like you said, that the file is one which can be collaborated up by multiple people, and there's only one file on which people can work and share across, with making sure that the right folks have the permission to view or access the file.
That's great. I'm very excited that this is now starting to roll out. I'm sure you and your team are monitoring the rollout and making it, into more and more people's hands over this month and next month. Anything that you can maybe tell us, how it's going in the actual early days and what you expect, to see in the coming months, just to round us out. We know about the feature, and as more and more people get it into their hands, what the rollout looks like?
Right now, actually, we are in very early stage of rollout. And we are looking at the customer feedback and the performance of the rollout right now. And that's where the laser focus is right now. If everything goes well, we are looking good to complete the rollout in this quarter.
Excellent. Well, I, of course, hope everything goes well. I very, very much congratulate you and your team for getting to this stage. It's been a well-anticipated feature, and I think it fits well with all of the value of Teams and how people share content and discuss with each other, and having that be a side-by-side experience as much as possible. So, Harsh, thank you for joining the Interzone and sharing more about the new file sharing experience.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks a lot for having me here. It's really great talking to you.
It's always great to hear from one of our program managers, especially on a type of feature like this that really brings together that integration with the SharePoint file platform that enables a lot of great capabilities. And in this context, that ability to share and make it consistent, especially when you're doing things in the context of chat, that new Microsoft Teams experience of people conversing and, of course, wanting to share content, now being able to do it in a really accelerated way in comparison to how it used to be. Specific to the new file sharing experience, I wanted to add just a few how-to things that are new within the new file sharing experience. As you heard, you can now create a shareable link for any file stored in Teams and directly set the appropriate permissions. Additionally, you can now set permissions for files stored in SharePoint or OneDrive while composing a private chat or starting a channel conversation. One thing to note is the copied link can then be shared with others by pasting it into a chat or channel, and it'll always adhere to the permissions that are set, unless it was one that was not meant to be shared any more broadly. When you paste the sometimes lengthy link, the feature also converts the link down to a more visual on the title and a chiclet on the image of the type of file that it is. The sender can then further set permissions by just adjusting it the same as you would on a file in OneDrive when you're sharing. You can do that when you're composing the message. So it's a really great way to share content, but be in control of how you want to share it. And now that extends to sharing content in a chat in Teams. The next capability that's coming from a teamwork perspective is Microsoft Lists commenting. You will be able to add and delete comments on list items. Users can view all comments on a list item and filter between views that show comments or activity related to an item. One note is that comments follow the permission settings inherent in SharePoint and Microsoft Lists, so users with read-only permission can only view comments. Those with list edit permission can make comments as well as delete comments. However, you cannot edit a comment once it's been posted. I have a few FYI notes based on where and how are comments stored that we often get asked. Comments are stored in the schema for each list, which is based on the SharePoint storage platform. If you're using a classic list template, it will not have this commenting feature. Commenting on lists in Teams is not yet available, though currently you can leverage Teams chat alongside a list item at that level. And last, comments are not indexed in Microsoft Lists. So remember, the ghost of Roadmap Presence says, leave your comments today to improve productivity and clarity for tomorrow. All right, us get into related technology, kind of like how It's a Wonderful Life relates to a roadmap carol. You know, every time a feature gets its wings out into production, a Microsoft engineer gets their wings, or something like that. The first related technology that I want to highlight is the OneDrive widget for iPhone. Now, when you run iOS 14 on your device, you can add a OneDrive widget to your iPhone home screen. The widget displays your photo memories on this day across previous years. And if you don't have any on this day photos for today, you'll see your most recent photos that you've saved to the cloud. So maybe you'll see a ghostly memory when you were a ghastly ghoul in the past of a Halloween before time. Wait, do ghosts actually show up in pictures? Well, translucent or not, your memories will haunt you on your phone's home screen in the nicest of ways. One note to share here, this feature is only available for personal OneDrive accounts. There's a great Learn More article in addition to a lot more tips and tricks that are recent by my peer Paul Diamond that will give you a real good indication of what you can do and send you on your way of using these great new features. Next in related technology, Tasks in Microsoft Teams is now generally available. This means Tasks in Microsoft Teams, both desktop and web, is now 100% rolled out to everyone in Microsoft 365 that is a non-government tenant. Tasks in Teams lets you manage your team tasks from Planner and individual tasks from To-Do in your hub for teamwork. The one note per government is we are working on Tasks for Teams to make it available to our cloud offerings, with GCC going live in the coming months. GCC High and DoD will follow shortly after that. The last bit for related technology is now you can embed Visio files that are stored in OneDrive or SharePoint into pages in Atlassian Confluence. We're excited to announce our first ever non-Microsoft integration for Visio with Atlassian Confluence, which is a remote-friendly team workspace. Alongside embedding Word, Excel, or PowerPoint files, you can now easily add Visio diagrams to your Confluence pages to then open them directly in a new browser tab, yet keeping the files stored where they are in Microsoft 365. That means your data remains secure. Confluence respects all privacy settings that are set in OneDrive and SharePoint so that no unauthorized users can access your content. It's a great new integration with a great partner from Confluence. Close your eyes and listen to the ghost of the roadmap yet to come. Here are 2 Ebenezer teasers for what's to come soon in November 2020. Teaser number 1. The My Feed web part, a great addition to intranet portals to make them much more personalized. Teaser number 2. The SharePoint site performance page. So when Joey asks, "How you doing?" SharePoint can let him know all about the diagnostics and health of the page. That's it with the teasers. We'll share more within the full SharePoint Roadmap Pitstop November 2020 edition next month. We've added a list of important resource links in the show notes and in the corresponding blog post on the Microsoft Tech community within the SharePoint community blog, giving you all that you need to get up to speed and to stay ahead. I hope you've enjoyed this Roadmap Pit Stop. Time to relax now, knowing that you are all caught up. If anything seems funny or confusing or ghostly in comparison, please send us your comments and please ask your questions. We are here to help put both our and your best change management foot forward. And until next month, may your ghosts be friendly